Welcome back, everyone. I'm Allison Berman. Right now, I'm here with Esther Wojcicki. Esther is revolutionizing education. She is a founder of the Palo Alto High Media Center, as well as a distinguished scholar at Stanford's MediaX. She's also a California Teacher of the Year and MacArthur Fellow, and recently a Singularity University faculty. Esther, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
It's great to be here. We're talking about a super important subject matter.
Yes, education is my passion.
It's a huge passion of mine as well. So you wrote a book about moonshots in education. Can you explain to me what is a moonshot in education?
A moonshot is something that is really hard to do, but very important, and we have to do it. And so just like the moonshot in 1961 with JFK, it was tough to get to the moon, but we did it, and it was important. We have to do a moonshot in education because we have to change the way education is delivered, and it's important, it's hard to do, but we're gonna do it.
And is there a moonshot in education that you're currently working towards?
Yes, the moonshot in education I'm working towards is to change the teacher's view of their role in the classroom. So how teachers see themselves in the classroom, and to change the community's view of the role of the teacher. So I'd like the teacher to see themselves as a coach part of the time, not all of the time, but at least part of the time. I'd like the community to support teachers that do that. It's very important for the community to be supportive of teachers and appreciate them.
Absolutely. And teacher as a coach, what unique value does this add?
So what this adds primarily is when a student is working on a project or working on something that is real and connected to the real world, then the teacher coaches them, they support them, they allow them to work on this project. So for example, in social studies, for example, they could be doing some kind of a newspaper or magazine about how the historical period they're studying relates to the world today. And then they can easily make a magazine on that and then learn collaborative skills at the same time, learn how to write at the same time, get recognition from the public as well, and it's a great opportunity. They can post it on this website called Issue, ISSUU, for free. It doesn't cost anything. Actually, Issue's even going to have a special section for schools, magazines, and publications. So that's one way. That's social studies. Science can do something like that. They can write up the science ideas that they're talking about. In math, they can create an app. And with the App Inventor, it's on the MIT website, it's free. So I think that kids need to be empowered. And the way they're empowered is by working in groups, feeling good about themselves, and doing things. Not just listening to somebody tell them about it, actually doing it.
Learning by doing and experiential learning.
Experiential learning, personalized experiential learning. And so the personalization is they take the whole world, they get the whole world to figure out what they're interested in doing. And not just what we consider today personalized learning, which is, personalized means you get to pick between story A, B, C, or D, and you get to pick the grade level, whether it's, 3rd grade, 6th grade, 9th grade, 12th grade. Personalized means you actually get to, your palette is the world. Yes. You get to pick what's interesting to you to do.
And I've heard you say that you are driven by the idea of inspiring students to create their own futures and empower them to build their own futures. Can you talk to me more about this idea and how we can help realize this?
So, it's kind of interesting. By the time they're in the 9th or 10th grade, kids lose a lot of their creativity because the main thing they're worried about is getting an A.
Yeah.
And so they want to conform because that's what the system teaches them to do, is to conform, and they get rewarded for getting that A grade, and then they think they're going to get into college of their choice. So creativity comes when you are doing something that you actually think of. And it doesn't necessarily have to get an A grade. In other words, it's a project you think about, and that leads to, when you think about what you want to do, that leads to your passion. Your passion could be, you know, researching gorillas, or it could be like the impact of tattoos on your body, or it can, I don't really care what they do. I just want them to do what they care about.
And have that creativity ignited.
And that creativity ignites the passion and the interest, and then they have that forever. They have that for the rest of their lives, because then they know what they really care about. And maybe, you know, it could be art, could be music, could be decorating. I mean, really, just think about little kids. You never have to ask them what their passion is. They just do it.
They do everything.
they don't, grades, they never heard about it. What's that, you know?
Right.
And they only get, in elementary school, they gradually get pushed into the box, and then they worry about making sure it's right.
And how do you think we can stop making the classrooms a place that kills creativity? We know we have to foster creativity in the classroom, but the system keeps encouraging creativity to be killed in the classroom.
Well, I think one way that we can do it is to set this culture in American schools, or maybe worldwide schools, where at least 20% of every class should be devoted to a project. Every class. And if the school wants to do it for a whole day, that's one thing, or if the teacher wants to regulate it, it's okay, but teachers have to be supported in this effort. And the main thing that any adult remembers about a class they had in elementary school, high school, they really don't remember what they learned. Sometimes they go back and it's like, God, what did I do in that class? But what they always remember is how that teacher made them feel.
Absolutely.
And so you want the kids to feel empowered in your class. They want to remember it as a positive feeling,
yes,
where they can do it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And you might forget the math you learned, but you can always go back and look it up if you feel empowered and happy about it.
Yeah, when you leave students empowered, I think they're able to take risks, and they're able to also feel empowered to take initiative in their own learning. I think maybe that's really the goal, that you want students feeling empowered to be a leader in their own learning.
Yes, you want students to take the initiative. So I can give you an example.
I'd love that.
You want one?
Yeah.
So just a few weeks ago, I worked with a guy named Freedom Chitanai at Stanford. He is an instructor there, and there's a course on computer science and design thinking. So I came in on day one to give a talk to the kids. He invited me, and what was interesting is I gave this talk, and I talked to the kids about my philosophy and how they should be empowered and do stuff that they care about, and work on projects they care about. And then Freedom supported that. He's like, you can do a Moonshot project, do whatever you want. Anyway, the kids loved it. And on day one, they were like so excited about this, and they decided that they wanted to do a magazine. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I think we want to publish the magazine. It's like, well, we only have not a very long time. So it's like, well, how about if we just publish the magazine online? And so, just to make a long story short, because I could take up a long time with this, in 3 weeks, these kids who never knew each other, from 25 kids from different places in the world, created a beautiful magazine. It's online. Website, it's also online. And they put themselves together. They did it themselves,
yeah,
in groups, and created apps, which they are now selling on the Google Play Store.
That is incredible.
In 3 weeks. And this was just because they all felt empowered.
Yes.
And I basically said to them, if it doesn't work, well, we'll just do it again. Or if you do something you don't like it, well, let's try another tack. But it doesn't matter, you can. So they felt completely empowered.
Yeah.
And that's why they did all these things. And needless to say, I'm very proud of them. I gave a talk in Idaho, and I used them as an example. I mean, it was pretty incredible. And now we're in touch on a WhatsApp app.
That's great. I think it's amazing what students can accomplish when they really feel a connection to it. I was working on a journalistic project with high school students, and at first I was teaching them how do you do an interview like this, and the students were like, that is the most awkward thing. There's no way I can interview. You want me to talk to a stranger, ask them about their life? And then by the end, the students were like, no, I've got this one. And they wanted to, and they wanted to be photographing them, and they were coming alive in a new discipline.
Right. So one of the hardest things for kids to do, all kids, is to interview someone else. And so you want to teach them that, let them do it. And that's what I teach in the journalism program, and my colleagues do the same thing. So our first assignment that the kids do are interviews. They have to interview 30 other people, 30, that they don't know about a question that they compose themselves. So first they have to think up the question, then they have to do these interviews. I can tell you, at the end of 30 interviews, they can do it. They can talk to anyone. They're great. But nobody ever asked them to do that.
Right.
You know, in your typical English class or social studies or math class, you're just sitting there listening to a lecture, taking notes, reading the book, and then taking the test.
Yeah.
And so where do these important skills for the 21st century come in?
Yeah.
And so that's why I suggest, you know, having a project in those classes so kids are learning to collaborate, to think critically, to communicate effectively, and
these are some of the most important skills of the 21st century.
Everybody wants kids that can do all those things. Be creative. They're called the 4 C's. So the more they can do these things, the happier lives they'll lead, the more productive lives they'll lead, and it's just more useful for society as a whole.
Absolutely.
So anyway, that's my goal.
It's a very incredible goal. And in your own life, did you have a specific experience that inspired you to go after this goal? Maybe a teacher or reading something that inspired you? What clicked this drive?
Well, I think the main thing that ignited this drive is that my parents are immigrants, and they didn't speak English very well. And so I grew up very poor. My father was an artist. And so we had some very difficult times without enough. I mean, I guess we probably would be classified as food stamp people now, but they didn't have food stamp people then. And I just decided at the age of 10 that I was going to live a different life. I did not want to live like this.
Yeah.
And the only way that I thought I could get out of this was education. And I don't know who gave me that idea, but then I realized that people that had degrees seemed to earn more money. You know, I was just a little kid. And so I'm going to go to college. And even though I didn't have I had no resources to go to college, but I said, I'm going to go to college. And fortunately, I got a scholarship, which was very helpful. And then also I worked at some jobs. I worked while I was going to college. I actually worked as a journalist, as a reporter. I was paid very little, but it was worth it to me. I was paid 3 cents a word, if you can believe that.
Wow, that is hard to believe.
That's great. I was writing a lot of stuff, you can imagine. But that was, you know, I was motivated, and then it paid off.
Yeah.
Because, you know, then, I graduated from college actually early in 3 years because I wanted to get out because I had to earn money. I was poor.
Yeah.
And it worked really well. And then I got a job, you know, and then I didn't have to live the poor life.
It's interesting when you say that, you know, because I've heard you say on stage that you want to inspire and empower students to create their own futures, and that's what you did. So
that's what I did, right. And it worked for me, and I want to help other students do the same thing, not just I mean, they can all do it. And they all have the ability. It's just a very rare individual that can't do it. You don't necessarily have to go to college. You can go to some kind of a vocational school. You can go to a tech school. You can learn to code. You know, there's so many things, but do something you care about. You know, maybe it's landscaping, you know, or being a forester, forest ranger, or, you know, whatever you want to do, I think is what you should do. You should be empowered to do that. And so I have a lot of students that have succeeded in many areas, and some of them didn't become journalists. As a matter of fact, most of them didn't. One of probably my most famous student is James Franco, the movie, the actor. He is amazing, and he's been empowered to do what is important to him.
Right.
And that means, you know, he can be an actor, he's a director, he also is an artist. I didn't know if you know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he painted some amazing canvases for Palo Alto High School Media Arts Center. They're beautiful canvases. Yeah, you would never know. He's a great artist. But I think one thing that's great is that he's doing something he is happy about.
Right.
And I have other students that are doing a lot of things that, you know, they might be in entrepreneurs or venture capitalists or teachers or doctors. But what matters is that they want to do it.
Yes.
And that, you know, they know what it takes to do that, and they're doing it. And because teaching, for me, it's hard. It's a lot of work. And I could easily have retired years ago, as you probably could guess, but I'm still doing it because it's so exciting for me to be with these students.
It speaks from you.
It's right. It's just every time I go to school, I mean, I get happy. And it's nice to be with students who are, they're exciting to be with. And then I like my colleagues. I think the faculty at Palo Alto High School is great. I feel lucky to have, you know, this experience. I don't think there's anything more rewarding than having a positive impact on someone's life.
I don't think so either.
And so that's what it is when you're a teacher and you really care.
That's wonderful. I hope that from this conversation, anyone viewing who's considered going into education, this gives you a bit more inspiration to go down that path. Esther, thank you so much.